Everyone, welcome. Great to have you all online today. My name's Alistair Mitchell. I'm the commercial director here at Commtract, and really excited today to have a chat with we call you a fellow startup, Malini, at Brighte, but we're a scale up, I should say. But we'd love to have the sort of scale that you guys are getting. I think you're you were last year. I don't know where you're at this year. We might ask that, but the sixth fastest growing company in Australia. So I'm sure, I know Commtract, and I'm sure plenty of other businesses that have dialed in today would love to have that sort of growth. So I'm really excited to have a chat with you today and hear from you. So yeah, over to you. Tell us about you.
Yeah, we're number six fastest startup in Australia this year, and last year we were number two.
Oh, okay.
So we've done quite well. It's hard to keep that growth going. But my name is Malini. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer and CMO for Brighte, which is, as you said, a startup. And what we do is we provide financing for people who want a sustainable and comfortable home. So if you want to get solar panels or a pool, we help you finance it for 0% interest. So it basically makes you move your plans forward. So instead of waiting 10 months to get your pool and then get it in winter, you can actually start paying for it now and then actually enjoy it in summer, which is lovely for most people. And I am, if you're wondering where the funny accent comes from, I'm originally from the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and I moved around quite a lot. So in the Netherlands, I worked for a big fashion house, and then I moved to eBay. And with eBay, I moved to the US, moved to Italy, and then to Australia, actually. I moved with eBay to Australia. And in Australia, I became the CMO for finder.com.au, which you might recognize from the very famous jingle. And then I moved to Brighte. So I've had a few different roles. So I'm in really big Silicon Valley, like 40, $50 billion companies, and companies where it's like, okay, well, maybe we have enough money this week to pay the electricity bill. So I've done both, and it's been quite a good journey.
Awesome. How did you come to come to Australia in the finder role? Was that a recruitment, or did you reach out to them? How did that relationship come together?
Yeah, my husband is Australian, and he forced me to move to Australia. So I came here kicking and screaming. And then the recruiter called me, and I was actually planning to become, and if I knew about Commtract, I might have stayed a contractor, but I was planning to become a consultant because I come from content and social. And then when I moved to Australia, I was like, oh, there's a big gap here in how to use social as a revenue driver, etc. So I thought, oh, that would be a really good niche for me to work in. So I actually got my ABN, got everything set up. The next day, Finder called, and I said, I'm not interested. And I said, oh, come meet the founder. She'll love him. So they convinced me to go full time again. So I call myself the world's worst contractor because I've now done it twice. Started the ABN, done everything, and then took a full-time job.
Fair enough. So having spent a bit of time in Silicon Valley, obviously people, it's a fairly lofty sort of experience. I think most people would look at. What sort of advice do you have to Australians about what it's like in Silicon Valley?
Oh, I think Australians are lucky because Americans love the Aussie accent. They love the she'll be all right attitude. So Aussies usually do really well in Australia. There's quite some Aussies out there that are really high up in these companies. So I think you guys have something going for you. And when I look at Silicon Valley versus Australia, I think the thing that Silicon Valley does differently than Australia is, one, it's hyper focused on data. It's very much about experimentation and incrementality. So it's always about going from good to great, and there's never something where you're like content with what you have, and it's like, well, how can we make it better? What can we tweak? And if you do this, does it actually add incrementality? So I do think when I moved to Australia, I was quite shocked with how marketers were looking at data. And I think if you're in comms or marketing, you should still understand how incrementality works, and you should still understand like how you can experiment with your own content or your own marketing programs to see how you can get that incrementality. So I think Americans, and especially in Silicon Valley, they do that really well. I think the second thing that they do really well is they think in scale. Now, this is a lot easier if you're in a country with 300 million people versus 220 million in Australia. But I think that mentality is really good. It's always about, oh, world class. And even when you hear Americans speak, like the Super Bowl, it's world famous. It's like, it's probably only in the US that people really watch it. Like, but thinking in that scale, that mentality, I think it's a great mentality to set yourself up for success. And then finally, I think something that people in Silicon Valley do really well is they move fast, but in a very targeted way. So it's very ruthless, and the prioritization meetings are really ruthless. And it's like, oh, we're only going to do one thing, but we're going to put everyone behind it. Yeah. I think with Aussies, because they're so lovely and so accommodating, they're like, we can probably put this on the roadmap as well. Like, we really just like give Bob a chance, and we probably do that too. We'll work a bit harder, and sometimes that ruthless prioritization is really essential.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. I just wanted to shout out to everyone who's online and say we will be doing Q&A, so you can do through the Zoom function, submit questions that you'd like to ask, and we'll get to those shortly in the webinar. My question for you, May, you just talked about sort of some of the hyper growth that we see in startups and scale ups, both, you know, obviously your own company and we see it, you know, in Silicon Valley as well. How do you sort of cope as a C-suite in a startup with getting the right people and just onboarding the number of people you need to keep the business growing?
It's hard. Like, our ambition is to hire 40 people in the next 4 months.
Yeah, wow.
And that's it's really hard because you don't have the brand recognition and the brand awareness. Like if you say, oh, come work at Telstra, come work at Optus, people understand that and they want to work for these big brands, where we really need to focus on brand awareness. But I'm trying to hire the people that can create the brand awareness. So it's a bit of a difficult thing. And it's very much about selling the dream. And how do you sell the dream? And how do you depend on headhunters and recruiters to find people that can believe in that dream? Yeah. And the other thing is, who do you hire? Because with that hyper growth, the people you hire today, in 6 months, the company has grown so much. The role has changed, so the scope has changed, and finding talent that can either grow with the company or finding talent that's willing to take a step back because they see the opportunity. Yep. It's I'm not gonna lie, it's super hard to find that type of talent. You really need to get people to understand that. And that's where I think companies like Commtract come in hand, where you can kind of hire some guns for a couple of months that can really help you set up the structure and the processes and put that in that you, as a startup, cannot afford. You cannot afford to hire these big executives that can do it all, and you kind of need to work through that. So being really smart and flying people in, and I've called in a lot of personal favors from people as well, like, can you just help me out for a month? Can you just do this? But that's really important. But finding talent, telling your story as a company, because I think people do love a challenge and people do love to build. So when you find builders that are willing to fly the plane and build it, yeah, that's your sweet spot.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out too. Glad to help you. So just, I mean, also, how do you keep the company culture staying the same with that sort of, if you're onboarding 40 people in 4 months? Yeah. Do you see the culture that you've set in your team and across the business shifting as you onboard different people, or is it sort of onboarding and it's everyone's sort of coming on board with the existing culture? How do you track that?
We're very worried about it. It's probably our number one worry at the moment, because we're at that tipping point. There's a lot of research that shows the moment you have 150 people in your company, the culture will change. Yeah. And we've done a really good job in having this very unique Brighte culture that I haven't seen anywhere else where I've worked. So we actually don't know how to keep that culture. So we're working through, all we do now is we have this healthy paranoia, and like, this is the culture we care about. And what we've done with the leadership team is we did a full day where we kind of unpacked what culture meant for us. Like, what we have all these values, but one of our values is be human, but what does it actually mean? And what are the key characteristics we want to find for people? And I think one thing we do at Brighte, which is quite interesting, is like, we don't want the rock stars and the Sherpas and the gurus. we actually want the comeback kids and the people that were really shy and couldn't make it in these big corporate environments, but have something to prove. I hired someone a couple of months ago who's um, probably in the last 10 years before retirement, and he really wanted to do a startup gig, super experienced, but no one would give him a chance. And we hired him, and it's just amazing, and how the culture embraced him, and he's just thriving. So it's finding that, and we're really unpacking it. So we have a cultural survey kit that we do when we interview people, and we have like our culture ambassadors in the company where we're asking them, can you please interview this person and just see if this is a person you can work with. We don't want people that are the same, but we want people that can get along.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, maybe if you could also share, what's the lifestyle of working in a startup? Is it like movies?
I have worked at startups where it was like the movies, where you're almost like just not sleeping under your desk.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Brighte's very different when it comes to that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from Catherine McConnell being a mom of two really active young boys. She created this culture where it's like, it's okay if you need to leave at 4 and pick up your kids, or you just need to get a Woolies order in before your meeting starts. So I think Brighte has a very different culture than some other startups I've seen. And it's one thing I think that Australians do a lot better than American startups. Like, because it's so hyper competitive in America, people have this constant pressure and this constant stress about, I need to get up at 5 a.m. and run a marathon and then outperform that. And then I need to do like 25 speaking engagements. And sometimes it's okay to relax, take a nap, do something that's really fun, because taking that time for yourself and getting inspired by things that are not work, it actually helps you at your job, because that's where the creativity comes from, like through travel or eating amazing food or meeting new people. That's actually where you become a better person. So I'm a strong believer that happy people create happy products and happy experiences, and that will create happy customers. So I think one thing I'm a really big advocate for is that the movie startup culture, even though it's true, and I watch Silicon Valley and I feel like, oh, that used to be my life. I think we can do it differently. Yeah. I think we can do it in a nicer, more human, more wholesome way. So I'm here to prove everyone wrong, that it doesn't have to be like the movies.
Awesome, great. And as a CMO, just out of interest, do you have I mean, obviously, I said earlier that listening to the Kyle and Jackie O show this morning, I heard your ad for tradie finance. But I'm wondering whether you have a bias or a preference for digital versus traditional media, and whether you have views on the allocation of funds across the two different types.
Yeah, I'm a digital first type of gal. I love digital. I've done brands, like I used to be a brand marketer, but I think there's something about digital that I just love. And I still go in every morning and check GA and ask really detailed questions where my team's like, you really shouldn't look at this anymore, lady. And the reason I like digital is the feedback loop you get. Like, if you do a big brand campaign and it's on TV, you often don't know exactly how you can measure it. But with digital, you have this two-way communication, because your customers either engage with it, they click on it, they stop watching the video. So they give you all the feedback on if they like it or not, and then you can improve it. So I think I will always stay a digital first person.
Okay.
That said, I do enjoy going to these trade shows with all the tradies, and I'm going to a National Plumber Gala in a couple of months, and I'm really looking forward to that, because that's a whole different world.
And is that an event sponsorship, or what's? Yeah. Okay.
It's very funny. Like I was like, can my brand not be next to the toilet, like the toilet displays? Like, can my brand just be over there? And it's like, but these are great toilets. I'm like, you've got to figure it out. Yeah.
And do you mandate the number of clicks, for example, as CMO? Like, what sort of rules do you set about clicks from ad to sale?
I don't set rules that strictly, but I do look at the whole funnel. So how many people have viewed the ad, and how many people have clicked on it, and how many people bounced. And what was the behavior they did afterwards and optimize for that. Because sometimes if you just look at clicks, you're going to optimize for the wrong behavior.
Yeah.
And one of the best examples I can give is I went to an SEO conference a very long time ago. And this company wanted to optimize just for one word. And the search volume for that was like 6 clicks a year. And all the SEOs said, it makes no sense. And this company's like, no, I want you to optimize for this word. So they optimized for the word. And it was like a head that you use in a rocket, and 2 people clicked on that thing and they closed a $20 million deal.
Yeah.
So would you optimize it for 6 clicks? No, but if one of those clicks gives you 20 million, I'm going to optimize for that. So context really matters. And that's sometimes with digital marketers, and myself included, we can over optimize for the wrong metrics. So you need to understand the context as well.
Yeah, what I was trying to ask is the number of clicks from from ad through to sale. So if I see the Brighte ad on Instagram and I tap on the ad, give me to a landing page that I can actually register and make a sale within one sort of extra tap, or do I have to go through 3 extra stages, or basically simplifying that? It sort of stuns me when people pay to have SEO or sponsored ads, and then you get lost in just going to their generic website. And
well, we're actually doing a few tests right now, because I agree there's something in our drop off that I'm not happy with. So we're building these new pages just to see, like, well, how do we make this easier? Because if you're on social media, you're looking at puppies and funny content and see what's happening. So when you click, that needs to be seamless. I mean, and it's about being respectful of people's time.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the way I look at it. It's like it's optimizing, but it's actually showing respect to people, that you care about their time and get the job done as quickly as possible. So yeah, to answer that, I do look at the amount of clicks and amount of steps it takes for someone to complete that. Yeah.
Awesome. I guess home renovation would be a really rich area though if you advertise it, right? I mean, everyone sort of loves looking at the architecture pages on Instagram. And is Pinterest a platform that you're advertising on?
Not yet, but I'm really keen to test that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be there's a lot of that is about sort of home design and people looking at renovating and different things. So likewise Instagram, I guess.
No, absolutely. I think there's a lot there. I'm currently going through kitchen reno, and I think I'm on Pinterest every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like 6 kitchen boards now, and it's like, when every time it's like, I really should start advertising on Pinterest. But yeah, it's also so fun and so intimate that you can help people get their renos done quicker, and also have some of the trust marker, because we've done a lot of work and due diligence to credit these vendors. So you do know if it's a Brighte accredited vendor, this vendor has already gone through all these other steps, so that we know that that's a legit vendor. So it gives a bit of quality and trust as well, which is great.
Yeah. Who would you say your competitors are?
We have a few. I think our biggest competitors are in.
Or would it be traditional finance companies, or or I guess you wouldn't get the sort of scale in a traditional buy now pay later product, right?
Wow. It's quite interesting. We have 3 main competitors. So one is the direct competitors, which is the bigger buy now pay later platform. So for example, Afterpay is not a competitor, because they go up to 2,000, and we don't start lending from 2,000 and up. But the buy now pay later products, then it's the personal lending, the withdrawing from your mortgage. But our biggest competitor is actually cash. 70% Australians save up to do the reno. So we're competing with cash and educating people on why you should use it. And it's quite interesting, because if you look at the car industry, people are very comfortable to take out a car loan. They can afford it, they know what it is, but they would still choose a car loan. But they wouldn't do it for their kitchen, right? It's actually the exact same model. So yeah, we're competing with hard coins, which is an interesting competitor, because they don't think they're competing with us. They're just there.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I guess also as well, I mean, if you're renovating your home, you're sort of adding value to an asset that's growing in value, as opposed to a car, which is you're paying off a decreasing value asset, right?
Exactly. Please tell all your friends that. I've been trying to tell people that.
I noticed you've got a 0% product.
Yeah.
That's for home renovations?
Yes.
And so what's the model behind that? Why would I choose a product that's not the 0% product, basically, if I can have access to that product?
It depends. Like certain industries don't offer that product because with 0% interest, we do take a clip, we take a merchant fee.
Yeah.
So there's some industries where the margins are so low they can't do that.
Okay.
So that's often because of the vendor, but I think everyone should use 0% interest. And the reasons that merchants are using us or our vendors are using us is because time kills all deals. So if I'm in your house and I'm trying to sell you solar and you say like, I have to call my bank and see if I have the money, or that sounds great, I just have to save up for 6 months and I'll be back. And you can then say, well, actually for $50 a week, you can get it today.
Yeah.
It helps them close the deal. And that just makes it so much easier. And for them, so many of our vendors used to lose a lot of money trying to chase customers for the invoice because they're really capable salespeople, really capable electricians or plumbers, but they're not there to do credit assessments or figure out if they've paid. So like for us to take all that admin away from them, it's worth the effort.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to go to Q&A from the audience. So just a reminder for everyone watching to please ask your questions through the Zoom box. The first one I've got is actually about one of your products. It's asking for an update on when your new electricity retail product is going to be launched.
We'll probably launch a pilot this year, but we're going to do a lot of testing in the beginning because this is something that hasn't been done before. So stay tuned. So
sorry, what is the new electricity retail product?
Oh, so we're becoming, and as a marketer, I'm not happy with how it's called because it can be misspelled, but we're becoming a gentailer.
Okay.
Not to be confused with something else. So we'll become the energy provider as well. So you can get your solar, your battery, and then Brighte will provide your energy as well. So you get the full package with us.
So you'll be retailing energy and would that allow people, if they've got the solar, to sell it back through the grid through you as well?
Exactly, because that's super complex. And right now we don't think that's a fair industry. So that's something that we want to simplify that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Fascinating.
It is. I get really excited about it, but I'm not allowed to say anything about it. So I'm just going to stare at you.
Okay, fair enough. All right, understood. No more questions about that. Could have been from a competitor asking about.
Yeah. So I'm like, Alistair, let me tell you everything. And I'm like, no.
All right. Anyone got any other questions for Malini?
See, Robin saying, what are the 3 biggest mistakes that consultants make when working on a project?
Sorry, sorry, Robin, I missed your chat. I didn't see it in the Q&A box. Yeah, awesome. What are the 3 mistakes that consultants when working on? Good question, Robin.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the 3 biggest mistakes are the templated approach. So sometimes that's exactly what consultants need to do to bring in the template, but it's to understand the business. So I think the biggest mistakes are sometimes consultants come in and say, like, I've done this before, let me just do it. Here's your social media strategy, here's this, and it's not adapted enough to the business. And then I think the other thing that consultants sometimes don't do is, I have seen some of them become like a bull in a china shop. It's like, I'll show you how to do it. And very often it's, people have the will and they have the skill, they just don't have the bandwidth to do it. So it's engaging with the rest of the company and really becoming part of the team and not just be like, oh, I'm a fly in, fly out, but understand it and have the water cooler chats and talk to people that have been in the company for a long time, because you'll get a lot of information. And with all the expertise you already have as a consultant, it'll just make you better. And then the third mistake is, I not of it's a mistake, but it's more guidance. I think it's always great when consultants come in and set KPIs. Like, these are the deliverables. This is what I'm going to do to make an impact on your business, and have that accountability. Because sometimes you do get, here's a beautiful idea, here's the ribbon on a silver platter. But if it works or doesn't work, there's no accountability on that side. And I think if consultants can do that and become more integrated, I think the projects would be longer. And I think that's someone you would always consistently tap into, because you'll be like, oh, consultant Bob always delivers, really understands my business, and is more of a sparring partner than just someone that tells me how to do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Malini, and thanks for the question, Robin. Well, it's thanks, Robin. Cheers. Well, it's nearly 12:30, so we might wrap it up there. Thanks so much for the chat, Malini, and thanks everyone for dialing in.
Awesome.
We'll speak soon.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.